Victor Sterling's voice boomed, silencing the rooftop lounge. "The sharpest legal mind I've met." His gaze flicked to Marcus's group, reading the tension. Silence swallowed the room. The woman in the emerald gown stared at her phone. Marcus's face paled, his smirk gone. "Where are you tuning in from, folks? Drop your city in the comments and tell us. Will Zara rise above the betrayal, or will her past drag her down? Hit that subscribe button to catch every twist in our latest videos. A black lawyer in jeans mocked by her ex? What secrets will unravel? Will justice prevail? Stick around to discover how one woman's silence becomes her sharpest weapon. Please share where you're watching from, and let's dive into this tale of revenge and redemption. The Chicago skyline glittered like a jagged crown, its lights winking against the velvet dusk. High above the city, on the rooftop lounge of Atlas Group's towering headquarters, the air thrummed with ambition. Crystal flutes clinked. Laughter rose in calculated bursts. The scent of wealth, cologne, leather, and aged whiskey hung heavy. This was no ordinary gala. It was a theater of power, where the Loop's elite traded secrets over canapes and sealed fortunes with a handshake. At the heart of it stood Zara Vance, a figure both out of place and impossibly magnetic. Zara, 32, was a lawyer whose name whispered through legal circles like a guarded secret. Her gray t-shirt tucked neatly into dark-washed jeans was a quiet rebellion against the sequin gowns and tailored suits around her. Silver hoop earrings caught the light as her tightly coiled curls bounced with each step, framing a face that held both grace and steel. She wasn't here to play dress-up. Victor Sterling, the billionaire CEO of Atlas Group, had personally invited her to join his lead counsel. Her reputation for shattering ironclad contracts and winning unwinnable cases preceded her like a storm. But Victor was late, his private jet grounded by a Denver squall, and Zara stood alone, a spark in a room of smoldering egos. She leaned against the bar, a glass of sparkling water in hand, her dark eyes scanning the crowd. The guests were mostly white, mostly male, their glances sliding over her with a mix of curiosity and dismissal. Zara was used to it, the raised brows, the subtle purse of lips. She'd faced worse in courtrooms where judges mistook her youth for inexperience, and opposing counsel sneered until she dismantled their arguments. Her silence was her armor, her mind a blade honed by years of navigating spaces that weren't built for her. She sipped her drink, steady, unshaken. Then she saw him, and her breath caught like a snag in silk. Marcus Thorne stood across the lounge, his laughter too loud, his tailored blazer too sharp. He was surrounded by a knot of Atlas senior staff, their faces flushed with liquor and privilege. Marcus, her grad school ex, hadn't changed, not the slick grin, not the way his eyes glinted with malice when he thought he held the upper hand. Their relationship had been a slow poison. His charm curdling into control, his infidelity the final cut. She'd walked away without a word, leaving him to his ego. She hadn't known he worked here, a mid-level manager in mergers, his role a pedestal for his inflated sense of self. Zara's fingers tightened around her glass. She could slip away, melt into the crowd before he noticed, but Marcus's gaze snapped to her, his smirk spreading like oil on water. He sauntered over, his entourage trailing like shadows, their polished shoes clicking on the marble floor. The air thickened, the hum of the gala dimming as eyes turned to the unfolding scene. "Zara Vance," Marcus drawled, his voice carrying just enough to draw attention. "Didn't expect to see you here. You serving drinks tonight, or just lost?" His words landed like a slap, sharp and deliberate. His group snickered, a low, ugly sound. A woman in an emerald gown, her lips painted to match, smirked and muttered, "Jeans? This isn't a campus cafe." A man with a whiskey glass, his tie slightly askew, chimed in, "What's with the t-shirt? Did she wander in from the street fair?" Laughter rippled, not loud, but piercing like needles through silk. Nearby guests glanced over, some amused, others shifting uncomfortably. Zara's jaw tightened, a muscle flickering beneath her skin, but her face remained a mask of calm. She'd faced worse than this. Partners who doubted her in law school. Clients who'd questioned her credentials. She knew the game. They wanted her to flinch, to shrink, to prove their assumptions right. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. "I'm here for the gala," she said, her voice low but firm, each word measured like a chess move. "Same as you." Her eyes locked on Marcus, unflinching, daring him to push further. The crowd's attention sharpened, sensing blood in the water. Marcus laughed, a hollow sound, stepping closer until she could smell his overpriced cologne. "Come on, Zara. You at Atlas's gala?" He turned to his friends, mock whispering. "Last I checked, she was scraping by with public defender cases. Don't tell me you're crashing this." His voice dripped with condescension, each syllable a jab at her past, her hustle, her very presence. "She used to beg me to proofread her bar exam essays," he added, grinning. "Guess she's still chasing big dreams." The laughter swelled crueler now, a chorus of entitlement. The woman in the emerald gown sipped her champagne, her eyes gleaming with malice. The whiskey man snorted, shaking his head. Zara's fingers curled tighter around her glass, the cold biting into her palm. But she didn't break. She'd learned long ago that silence could be a weapon sharper than any retort. She let Marcus's words hang exposed, their pettiness a stain on the polished air. Her mind raced, cataloging every detail, their faces, their postures, the way the crowd leaned in, hungry for drama. She could fire back, cut Marcus down with a single line. She'd done it before in courtrooms and boardrooms, her words slicing through arrogance like a scalpel. But here, in this glittering cage, she chose restraint, not out of weakness, but strategy. Let them underestimate her. Let them think they'd won. The tension coiled tighter, the lounge's chatter fading to a murmur. Marcus leaned back, arms crossed, his smirk a challenge. He thought he'd cowed her, that her silence was surrender. He didn't know her anymore, if he ever had. Zara's lips parted, a response forming, but the moment froze as the glass doors to the lounge swung open with a soft whoosh. The crowd's attention shifted, a ripple of anticipation cutting through the haze. Victor Sterling had arrived. Zara's pulse steadied, her gaze still locked on Marcus for a fraction of a second longer. The game was about to change, and she was ready. The rooftop lounge of Atlas Group's Chicago headquarters held its breath as the glass doors parted. With a soft, deliberate whoosh, Victor Sterling stepped through, his presence a thunderclap in the gilded haze. At 50, he was a colossus, tall, silver-haired, his dark suit cut to a razor's edge. His eyes, sharp as flint, swept the room, commanding silence without a word. The chatter dissolved. Champagne flutes paused midair, as if the city itself had bowed to his arrival. Behind him, an assistant trailed, clutching a tablet like a shield, her heels clicking in nervous rhythm. Zara Vance stood at the bar, her gray t-shirt and dark-washed jeans a stark contrast to the glittering crowd. Her silver hoop earrings glinted under the lounge's amber lights, her tightly coiled curls framing a face that betrayed nothing. Moments ago, Marcus Thorne, her grad school ex, had mocked her before his sneering clique. His words, "Serving drinks were just lost," still echoing in the air. The laughter of his group, led by a woman in an emerald gown and a whiskey-slosh executive, hung like a sour note. Zara's silence had been her weapon, her calm a challenge Marcus mistook for defeat. Now, as Victor's shadow stretched across the marble floor, the game shifted. Victor's gaze found Zara, and a rare smile cracked his granite demeanor, warm yet weighted with intent. "Miss Vance," he said, his voice a deep current that carried across the lounge. "Sorry to keep you waiting. That Denver storm was a nightmare." The words were casual, but their effect was seismic. Heads turned, eyes widened, and the room's pulse quickened. Marcus's smirk froze, then crumbled, his face paling as if drained by some unseen force. The woman in the emerald gown clutched her champagne flute, her crimson nails digging into the stem. The whiskey man blinked, his tie now a noose. Zara set her sparkling water down, her movements deliberate, her composure a fortress. "No trouble, Mr. Sterling," she replied, her voice low but clear, each syllable polished like a blade. "I was just getting acquainted." Her eyes flicked to Marcus, a fleeting glance that held the weight of their history, his betrayal, her resilience. The crowd caught the undercurrent, their whispers rising like static. Victor stepped closer, his presence shrinking the space between them. He placed a hand lightly on Zara's shoulder, a gesture both protective and declarative. His eyes, now scanning Marcus's group, gleamed with the precision of a predator sizing prey. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his tone warm, but laced with steel. "Allow me to introduce Zara Vance, our new lead counsel." He paused, letting the words settle like dust after an explosion. "She's the sharpest legal mind I've ever met, and she's here to make Atlas Group untouchable. If you haven't heard of her yet, you will." Silence swallowed the lounge, thick and suffocating. The woman in the emerald gown stared at her phone, her fingers trembling as she scrolled to nowhere. The whiskey man coughed, his glass forgotten on the bar. Marcus stood rooted, his arms still crossed, but the arrogance had bled out of him, leaving a husk of disbelief. His friends shifted, their earlier laughter now a ghost haunting the edges of the room. The crowd, once hungry for drama, now watched with a mix of awe and unease, their assumptions about Zara unraveling like cheap thread. Victor's hand lingered on Zara's shoulder, a silent endorsement that reshaped the room's hierarchy. He turned to her, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur. "I trust you're being welcome." The question was a trap, bait for the guilty. Zara met his gaze, her faint smile a spark in the dim light. "It's been enlightening," she said, her words soft but edged, a nod to the mockery she'd endured. The crowd leaned in, sensing the fault lines cracking beneath the gala's polished surface. Victor's expression hardened, his eyes flicking to Marcus with the precision of a marksman. "Good," he said, his tone clipped. "Tomorrow, we tear into a patent dispute. I want your eyes on it, Zara. No one else." The directive was a coronation, elevating her above the room's whispers. He gave a final nod, then turned to greet other guests, his assistant scurrying to keep pace. The lounge exhaled, its rhythm restarting, but the air was different now, charged, unsteady. Zara stood still, her silhouette framed against the city's glow. The crowd's eyes lingered, recalculating her worth. She felt the shift, the way power bent toward her like light through a prism. Marcus remained frozen, his jaw tight, his earlier bravado a memory. His group dispersed, the woman in the emerald gown muttering an excuse about a call, the whiskey man retreating to the bar's far end. The gala's hum resumed, but it was a hollow echo. The room's center now orbiting Zara. She turned to Marcus, her movement slow, deliberate, her eyes locked on his, not with anger, but with a clarity that cut deeper. "Next time you play games," she said, her voice soft but lethal, "make sure you know the players." The words landed like a verdict, final and unappealable. Marcus opened his mouth, but no sound came. His hands twitched, searching for a retort, but the moment had passed, and he was left grasping at air. Zara stepped away, her jeans swishing softly, a quiet defiance against the lounge's opulence. The crowd parted without a word, their glances now laced with respect, curiosity, or fear. She moved toward the rooftop's edge, where the city sprawled beneath her, its lights pulsing like a heartbeat. The gala continued, but its rhythm was hers now. Each step a note in a song she'd been composing in silence for years. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The weight of Marcus's stare, the crowd's recalibrated attention, the echo of Victor's words, all of it followed her, a chorus to her unspoken triumph. The night was young, and Zara Vance was just beginning. The Chicago dawn painted Zara Vance's corner office in hues of gold and steel, the city's skyline a silent witness to her ascent. 6 months had passed since Victor Sterling's seismic introduction at the gala, where his words, "The sharpest legal mind I've ever met," had reshaped the room's gravity, elevating Zara from mock outsider to Atlas Group's untouchable force. Her office, a sleek expanse of glass and polished wood, was no mere workspace. It was a war room, its walls humming with the battle she'd won. Papers stacked neatly,